the thing is, it's an event in which Britain has been so successful and so strong in recent years with Tonya, with Sarah, now Lois. The problem is, of course, now Tonya's gone, it leaves a bit of a void and a bit of a vacuum.
Yeah, but what it also leaves is a space for and an opportunity for someone new to come in and fill that. So, yeah, juniors out there need to get cracking.
Yeah, but it's a very difficult thing, isn't it? Because first of all, mastering the 10-meter board and then getting the synchronicity as well. Two completely different, separate issues. Because a lot of people who do the individual on 10 actually don't make great synchro divers.
Yeah, that's true. You do need two people that are well matched to be able to dive well together as a team. And I think also you've got to get on with that person and, in my opinion, you know, train with them to get to that next kind of level. So yeah, it isn't clear cut. And I'm sure they'll try out a few partnerships and kind of see how they go before they make that final decision.
So we're talking about Andrea Spenzolini-Syriax and Josie Zielig of Crystal Palace. I know Chris is here, they're a coach to look over them. And basically, if you're not aware, we'll obviously give you more details in the men's later on. The men's runs a slightly different format, but the first two rounds are required. Back dive and reverse dive in this case. Then those are our judges, by the way. And there's our execution judges. There will be synchro judges as well. There they are. Lindsay Fraser, I think you know quite well, do you not? Your former coach?
I do, yeah, my former coach. Pretty much coached me for most of my life. I think has been with me for the longest and taught me most of the dives that I compete today.
Yeah, and she's obviously got some good divers coming through in Southampton. We saw one of them in the last final in the 1 meter, so.
Yeah, she does have some great talent coming up in the diving program. Not only that, but also with the coaches as well. She's got a really good team that she's building down there. I think it was quite a hard number of years when I left because some funding and stuff got cut from the program. But I visited very recently, and it was very good to see the progress that they've been making down there. Because it's always difficult, you know, when athletes are at a program, it attracts money, it attracts a lot of things, you know, and then when that kind of leaves, because it generally does, you go in cycles, and right now Leeds is where a lot of athletes are, and London, and obviously you've got Sheffield in there as well, but it's hard for me to see, you know, the money left there, but it's really also good to see how hard they've been working to get athletes up there at nationals competing at the best of their ability to be able to get that back on track.
Well, in case you don't know, Lindsay brought Peter Waterfield through individually and obviously with the synchro as well. Our Olympic silver. In fact, there she is. Right on
just
cue.
Talking about
just
her. She's right here.
Talking about you. We were, yeah. She literally has just tapped me on the shoulder and just give me a little shoulder squeeze. And I thought, oh, she's supposed to be judging. What's she doing up here?
I don't know, mate. I think the judges are actually coming up to the balcony to get a better look.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, for the well, because they're quite a long way away, aren't they? That's the thing.
Very far away, yeah.
But I was saying, I was just in mid-flow talking about watching with Pete Waterfield. Obviously, Pete individually, but better known as the Olympic silver medalist with Leon back in 2004.
Yeah, I remember watching that on TV and thinking, wow, how do I do something like that?
And you did, and you went one better.
Yeah. But Pete was a massive, you know, he was a mentor to me. You know, he was there when I was training in Southampton for all that time, and it was good to be able to kind of watch what he did as a young athlete and be able to kind of replicate it in my own way.
Yeah, well, as we know, you went on to superstardom in Rio. How often do you watch that back? I don't know, do you watch it back very often?
I've been asked this quite a lot, and you know, I've actually only watched it back 3 times, and they were all against my will. One,
come on.
One of them was you don't? No, it's true. Well, one of them was actually 2 of them were at awards, and one of them was like Christmas time, and my dad thought, hey, I've put this on the TV. What do you think? Should we sit down and watch this?
Not the holiday pictures, not the holiday movie, not the holiday snaps. Let's get that out again, shall we?
I was like, oh, I don't know. It makes me feel nervous again watching it. I don't like
Imagine
it.
what it was like commentating on it. Yeah, you had control. We didn't have any control over it. At least you did.
Yeah. Actually, I think competing in it was probably better, to be honest.
I think you're right. Okay, well, ready then for the 10 meter. I just want to see what time this actually, how long it takes in between dives here. Back dive to start off with for Andrea and Josie of Crystal Palace. There they are, up in the gods, very close to the roof.
Timing was good and entries were good. A little bit of a discrepancy in the pike shape and the come out, but overall, I mean, I don't actually know these guys too well. Good entries.
All right, so that's the back dive. So we'll see a replay and see a couple of these, no doubt. Just give us a bit of an idea. Oh, they are disappearing. Right, okay, so just keep a quick eye. So that's about 20 seconds. There's the marks, 42. We'll say 50 is about par for the 2.0. There's their coach, Chinese coach. Half a minute. Oh, they're having a chat. Going through it, so.
They're announcing the scores extremely slowly.
Yeah. Half a mark, 7.5. Right, I make it, that's 45 seconds since the dive.
What's your bet? I reckon 2.5.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Well, it's going to be a minute. It's going to be a minute by the time. Well, they've got a lot of stairs to go. They are going to be super fit.
And they're going to be very tired when they get to the top.
So they've made up to the 5 metre. They go up to the 7 now. I've never done a commentary like this. Up to the 7.5. And then nearly at the 10. And there's a nice picture of the British diving sign as they're climbing up. So it's now 1 minute 20.
Made pretty good time.
Yeah, so by the time they go, it's probably about a minute 40. I mean, by the time they get to dive number 5, they are going to be so cream crackers. And these are the easier dives, remember? These are the more rudimentary dives, the ones that even you could do.
Yeah.
You've never been on the 10 metre. You must have been on the 10 metre board, haven't you? You've been off the 10?
Not so recently.
Okay. So the reverse dive now for basically competing against themselves. It must be a really strange feeling. Oh dear, took off at different times.
There you go. Maybe she was a little bit tired. She swung that through her shoulders, the nearest one. I'm not sure who's who. And she over-rotated quite badly there.
This is like going through a torture chamber for these two, isn't it? You know, A, you got nobody to compete against. You're having to do it yourself. If you drop a dive, 31.8's not what the coach is looking for. So
there's one thing as a diver you don't mix, and that's diving with cardio.
Right, she gets quite right. She's going to take her time as a coach to say, right, I need to brief my divers before they go for dive number 3, because we're getting to the important stuff now.
Her coaching comments should be catch your breath.
Well, she's going through every single dive other than the one they've just done. She that was a reverse dive, and she's going.
She's doing comments for the next dive now.
Yeah, I know.
Little tips for them to think about when they're on the board.
Okay, take your time, girls. the breathing already. Yeah, she's puffing. 2.8 coming next. Inward 2.5 7. So I've got to say, I think I've been covering diving for 20 years now. I've got a replay of the reverse dive. Yeah, there you go. And I don't think I've ever seen an event in 20 years with one pair of competitors. I've seen ones with, I think, 3. But I don't think I've ever seen one with 1. But yeah, breaking new ground here.
New territory in terms of a competition routine as well, just absolutely non-existent.
Where are they now? Well, I just called out the AA to get them onto the 10 metre board. And they're going through their rehearsal for the next dive. Yeah, but they're going through their practice for that. So there can't be any time constraints here, because it's unrealistic on a 10 metre board to expect them to rush it.
No, I don't want them to rush it either. I don't want to see, any any mistakes because they're out of breath.
Right, so referee can blow a whistle and they can go at their own leisure. There's a whistle. Inward 2.5. 2.8 on this one. The biggest dive coming at the back end.
Not bad, not bad. A little bit splashy on the entries, but the synchro from the tower was good. They were a good distance from the board, which is the main thing. Well executed.
I don't know how slowly we can turn 59.6, by the way, is their total mark. I don't know how slowly we can make these replays happen. If you could slow it down even more as they go through. Just going over that last dive again. Right, this is kind of slightly slower speed.
Very nice pike shapes in the air. They're very tight. I wish I could get that tight now.
We're going to go through the rehearsal downstairs. So what will she be going through here?
She'll be, I think she's talking about the inward maybe now, explaining maybe I think she wanted them to spin a little bit faster and not throw their head into the somersault. That's why one of them went over and didn't get their hands properly.
Now bear in mind, one of these is 13 and the other is 14. Right, so this is really early stages for any kind of synchro pair at 12 and 13.
Yeah, so I guess this is quite a big learning curve for them, and I think a difficult one, being the only pair to be in the competition. They will probably never experience this ever again.
13 and 14, sorry, I get my years mixed up because we're now in 2018, but yeah, 2004, Andrea, 2003, Josie. So 14 and 15 respectively. Still amazes me when I see people on a 10-meter board, they can actually go through the water with no splash. We see the Chinese, obviously Tom when he's diving his very best, David Budaya, people like, you think, how from 30 feet up can you get into the water and not have a ripple or splash?
I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, but you must look at, you obviously compete or train with people who do 10 meter.
Of course.
And you look at it and think, you know, it seems like a physical impossibility to come from a platform that's 33 feet high to do that.
I think there are a number of things at play. I think one of them, the most important part, is body tension and kind of body shape as well. So where your legs are, the extension compared to your upper body, and where your arms are, it should be a completely straight line. And that's how the entry is kind of created.
That's how you get the ripped entry, but it just seems you know, physical impossibility to actually hit the water and not actually disperse water.
It's a talent.
To punch a hole in the water, in effect, and go straight through it. But yeah, we've seen the Chinese do it. Let's see what the forward 3.5 looks like.
Oh, one of them not quite making it there and burying her head in anticipation for not making the dive. She then did make the dive, but didn't come out of it because her head was down, which is a shame.
Look at the tape already on the back. So this is the thing with the 10 meter, which you 3 meter boys don't experience, is that. Look at the tape on the back.
There you go. 13 and 14, and already with back issues. That's not so good. Hopefully it's temporary and it's nothing too sinister.
Well, you see the battering that Tom's taken over the years and other 10 meter divers have had. You know, you're putting yourself through an awful lot there. So after time, not saying that you don't, because
well, you know, I've got my own issues with my back as a 3 meter diver. You know, especially when doing very high degree of difficulty twisting dives. You know, it's easy to and also compressing the board to such a crazy amount daily. It's hard on the knees and the back. hard on everything, to be honest.
Well, and also from when you started doing it to where you are now, the tariffs of the dives, the intricacy of the dives have all changed. They've all become far more complicated. And what you're required to do to even be competitive at world level means you have to push that boundary and push that barrier even further.
And it's constantly going up as well. I do feel sorry for the younger ones now that are getting into the sport. They don't know, but they're going to have to do some seriously hard dives when they're competing at Olympic Games.
When are we going to see a 4 on the 3 metre board? Because we haven't seen that. 3.9 is as high as we've gone with Jack. We're going to see a 4 soon?
I think it might be Jack Law himself that brings that to light. There are a couple of dives in mind. Front 4.5 piked. I think it could be capable for him. Possibly reverse 3.5 pike. I'm not sure. I don't think the tariff's more than. It's definitely not more than 4. Actually, I think it's not enough. It should be a lot more than what it is, considering how hard it's going to be.
Well, we're seeing 4.1 for the Mexicans on the 10 metre board.
Yeah.
But this is the 10 metre board and their last dive. And I think it might be quite happy, quite grateful that we've reached dive number 5 of 5 because it's their biggest. So you've got more likely to go wrong. Back 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists for the Crystal Palace pair.
Not too bad. Again, a little bit sloppy on the entries, but the takeoffs were solid. Just a little bit loose on the entry. Maybe that bad back just went a little bit there at the end. Couldn't hold the tension.
Right, here come the marks. The execution marks at the top. And the synchronized marks at the bottom, and they should get a good round of applause. I think coaches around you happy. It's quite a stage for them. Those are people looking on, and they are the only two that they've got their eyes trained on.
Well, under difficult circumstances, I think they did okay. Obviously, it could have been a lot better, and I think maybe they would have competed better under a different competition environment. But who knows?
Well, I suppose the only thing is they do have marks now to work on in a proper environment, so they can, at least they've got something to have as a kind of indication going forward. 243.54, so next time they compete, they were looking for a bigger mark than that.
It might well have been their first competition together, I'm not so sure. And as you said, at least there's a benchmark there to know what they need to improve on in the future in their events going ahead.
Right, let's look ahead to coverage will start soon. In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll hold fire on that. We'll talk about it when we come back. But coming up next, it is the men's 3 metre synchro. You'll be glad to hear there are 4 couples involved. 2 from Sheffield, 1 from Leeds. We'll talk more about them. And obviously, Dive London have their combination as well. So Ben Cutmore, Tyler Humphreys going for London. Freddie Woodward, James Heatley, one of the Sheffield pairs. The Haslam boys together in 3rd place in terms of their dive order, and Dan Goodfellow and Anthony Harding for Leeds. We'll be back in a few minutes time with the men's 3 metre synchro.
I can reach, but I mean that's my length. Yeah. It's just stuck on this bloody.
Can we try and give a bit more length on the microphone, because
unfortunately I can't get down there because I've got a bad back.
That's fine. I'll unplug it. Unplug that.
I'm not gonna go down there because I don't know. Do you know what? I can put my foot. Techers. That's right. Excellent. Thanks very much. Nice.
Okay, yeah, we'll just stick it to this stuff. last event on day one of the British Diving Championships 2018 at the Plymouth Life Centre. 3 days worth of competition, and we've had the 1 metre for men and women, just had the 10 metre synchro for women. This could be potentially the most competitive event of the day. The 1 metre for men certainly was. This might potentially usurp it. The men's 3 metre synchro. Of course, we have the Olympic champions in Jack and Chris. I have half of that deadly duo alongside me. Chris Mears is going to run his eyes over this, knows about one pairing in particular because he trains with them all the time. That's the Leeds pairing. But, well, pairings 2, 3 and 4 here. Woodward, Heatley, the 2 Haslam boys, and Goodfellow Harding. How do you separate them?
It's going to come down to, firstly, degree of difficulty and execution. We'll see if Goodfellow and Harding can get their 109 off well. If they can, then that will put them possibly a cut above the rest. But we've got Freddie, who is an Olympian at Rio, and James Heatley, who did very well in 1 metre at the Worlds. They're going to be a strong team. And the Haslams are always strong. So I think for them 3 pairs, it's going to be tight. And then for Ben Cutmore and Tyler Humphreys, it's good experience for them, but I don't see them being in the mix unless someone makes mistakes.
It's a combination. We've seen it before. Obviously, we were talking earlier about Leon and Pete. They were at separate clubs and did the synchro together. We have Freddie from Sheffield and James from Edinburgh here. They weren't ever really trained together, were they, for this?
I don't think they will have done a lot of training. I've watched them in training in Plymouth, and they do actually mirror each other fairly well, which I wouldn't say it was a surprise to me, but considering they don't train together, they've done very well to match each other.
So we'll have Ben Cutmore and Tyler Humphreys, who are 14 years of age respectively, from Dive London. They'll be out first, so they are the future. And of course, Dive London is Tom Daly's club these days. Then Freddie, we've already seen on the 1 metre, doing very well. City of Sheffield, and James Heatley too from Edinburgh. Their programme has a couple of 3.4s in it. Then the Haslam boys from Sheffield, 3.5 to end. Reverse 1.5, somersaults 3.5 twists. But the 109C that Chris is referring to is Dan Goodfellow and Tony Harding's forward 4.5, which has become kind of stock in trade now, I suppose, so both 3 and 10 metre. It's the event and the discipline that 10 years ago wasn't even on the books. But you know, now it's become so commonplace. If you don't nail your 4.5, you're basically not going to get medal contention.
Yeah, 4.5 is one of them dives that now is almost a necessity in a men's 3 metre senior list. If you're not doing it, then, you know, as you said, you're not going to be in contention for the medals. At the same time, if you don't get it right, you're definitely not going to be in the medals, because it is a hard dive to get right. So we'll see if Dan and Tony can pull that off today. That'll be exciting, as it's their last round dive as well.
And just to mark your card for those who might be fairly new to all this, we will have 2 rounds which will be the required dives. Everybody has to do them. They are the 2.0, so you have a choice of required dive. We'll see quite a range, actually, to be honest. We've got forward and back from the young boys from London. Then we've got back and reverse from Freddie and James. Then we've got a forward 1.5 and a back dive. Doesn't matter what you do. First 2 rounds, you could do a forward 4.5. It's only worth 2.0.
Very true. I think what the judges look for, you know, in the simple dives is perfect technique and really, really tight, good entries. Now, when you make a mistake, say, you know, you flex a foot or something in the air, it's very, very noticeable, and the judges will be very harsh with little points like that, especially on the entry as well. If your entry isn't on point, then you ain't going above a 7.
So we've seen 3 pairings introduced. Now come your boys from Leeds. Well, Dan Goodfellow, of course, has experienced the heights of Olympic medal, as indeed you did. Bronze medalist with Tom Daly back in Rio.
Yeah, and I think for the 2 Dive London boys, it's great experience for them diving alongside Dan, obviously being an Olympic medalist, and Freddie, who is an Olympian. And you've got other divers in there, you know, that are on the senior circuit that are diving at a very high level. So for them, you know, to dive alongside the likes of them is, I think, a really good opportunity.
So we'll have 2 rounds of mention of 2.0. Then we up the ante a bit. Here are our execution judges. I always think it sounds like they're going to some sort of penitentiary in the US. Here are execution judges.
It does a bit.
Do you have any last request? Susie Bamber, who joined me in the commentary box earlier, is one of our judges. Sarah Barrow, as we were mentioning, is now on the judging panel as well. And we mentioned your former coach will be one of the Synchro judges. There she is. That's 2. So obviously looking for very different things. And for those, again, we don't want to take too much for granted, but obviously you have 2 separate sets of judges who are looking, Chris, for very different things.
Yeah, one's looking at kind of the execution of the individual dives, and one is looking at the overall synchronicity of the dives. So 2 very different things, and often can get 2 very different scores for one dive.
I think it's still a bit of a work in progress, certainly with the synchro, because sometimes you'll see something with the naked eye in commentary and you'll think, well, that's not very synchronized. And then the marks go and say, well, they didn't spot that. And sometimes you're not quite sure what they're looking for in terms of the synchro, so that is specifically their job, to make sure everything is aligned and is the same. Yeah,
as an athlete, it can be very annoying with that, because there is this thing that came into power, which is kind of an overall impression, which is kind of like, okay, if somebody does a really bad dive but someone nails them, then they kind of don't get like a 9 because theirs was so good, because their partner kind of fluffed theirs up a bit, which I think, I'm not sure I agree with that, but when you're both landing on your head, then it kind of works in your favour.
Yeah, well, let's hopefully everybody does their best today. We don't have any calamities. We had 1 diver, of course, today, did hit the board. We don't want to see that happen in the synchro.
Yeah, hopefully not. Get them dives away from the board, please.
Yeah, it's if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on the inward, isn't it? So
yeah. Hopefully, I don't think anyone's using reverse 3.5. That would be the other one, but I don't think anyone is. So, yeah, no one is.
No. There's a reverse 2.5.
We should be safe.
Yeah, reverse 3.5. Ben and Tyler will be doing that in round 5. And here they are, ready to start things off. So as I mentioned, all the dives in the opening 2 rounds are anywhere 2.0. So really looking, I always think, is a benchmark figure 50. If you can hit 50, 50 plus.
50 is good, very good.
On 2.0. It was their forward dive.
Oh, 2 very confident hurdles there, considering it's the first round and they're young competitors. That was a really strong start for them. Not so tight on the entry. I think Ben went through the water very well, but Tyler a little bit splashy there.
45.6, not quite the 50. I think we will see a 50 from some of the remaining 3 pairs. Freddie Woodward of City of Sheffield, James Headley of Edinburgh, combining here on a back dive.
Very nice there. Maybe a tiny bit heavier from James than Freddie, but other than that, very nice synchro. 49.8 there.
Yeah, 50 not quite achieved, but very close to it.
Not quite, but not a bad effort.
Synchro marks better than the execution marks on that. The 9s.
Yeah, and that was just James a little bit heavy on the water there, but generally the come out and the takeoff were very good.
Now, these 2 are separated by a couple of years, so they're not twins, as you might be able to tell. There's actually a difference in their build as well, isn't there, Ross and Jack?
Yeah, there is. And also as brothers, how well do they get on as a team?
Well, we'll find out in the next 5 dives. 6 in this case, of course. Forward 1.5 somersaults in the 3-meter synchro.
Ross very fast out of the board there, and you can see him putting the air brakes on as he comes around and opens up early, but rips his entry to shreds. Synchro a little bit out there, but 51, so the judges disagree with me.
Not for the first time. You got to thank those judges in Rio who were sitting there on tenterhooks going, come on, what's going on? 51 puts him in the lead. Did it say we get one? I reckon that Dan and Tony might be up for a 50 plus here.
We'll see. I've seen their back half in training, which is an interesting dive to put as your required dive.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Twisting. But it's because I don't think they use a twisting optional. Maybe they do.
Back 1.5 somersaults,
no,
half a twist. It's
so we'll see.
Interesting concoction. If you did it individually, it'd be worth a lot more than 2.
For sure. A lot of discrepancy in twisting in requires. Nice entries. Nice entries. Not quite in line with the board, so I can't see exactly if they were both in line with each other, but it looked okay to me.
Yeah, no doubt the judges sideways on will notice that, because they weren't going in together. You should be able to see just one person, shouldn't you, as you're looking through?
Yeah. Well, I think that maybe Dan was a little bit further back from Tony. That happens sometimes in training. I think that's what we're seeing there.
So round 1 of 6 completed. One more round of requireds. And Freddie and James open up with their back dive. We see it from the 2 14-year-olds from London. And then Tyler.
This is where the requireds are so important, because you can see the 2 Haslam brothers are actually 4 points ahead of Dan and Tony, which actually might not seem a lot, but when it comes down to the final round, that's going to be a lot. Very nice entries from these 2. They really know how to rip. I think Ben was definitely closer to the board and a bit faster going than Tyler, but not a bad effort.
46.8. So marginally better than their opening dive in terms of marks, and 8 pretty much across the board on Synchro. So Freddie on the right as we look, James on the left.
The dreaded reverse dive.
Yes.
Always the dreaded reverse dive with the first hurdle of the competition. Always a scary one.
Let's see how they overcome it or don't. Who's doing the counting?
I'm very impressed with their timing in their hurdle, considering they don't train together. James was a little bit heavy on the water. Freddie went through pretty well. Got 48 points there.
Yeah, looking back, just to check. And again, the Synchro overall better than the execution. 48, some 97.80. Here are our current leaders. Haslam boys, matching trunks.
Leaving the door open a little bit there for the Haslam brothers to pull away possibly even more of a lead.
Well, they're going to go with the back dive, which we've seen from the 2 previous sets. Interesting, you saw Dan and Tony not going for the back dive as such, back with somersaults and twist.
Nice, a little bit splashy on the entries, but in the air there was a nice mirror there, especially with the same trunks. Looked like just one person going. 49.2, so not quite their 50 points, but still up there.
Yeah, here's the breakdown of that. Yeah, 8.5 keys getting quite a bit of wear from the Synchro judges.
Dan and Tony want to do a nice reverse dive now to cut that lead that 2 Haslam brothers have on them.
Well, they're probably not going to get 53. That's kind of Chinese territory, isn't it, on this? But 50, 51 would be good.
A tall order. Oh, nice reverse dive there. Dan, great entry. Tony, a little bit of a splash compared to normal than what I see in training. But overall, not a bad dive. I think maybe Dan was a bit further out than Tony, or vice versa. Hence the Synchro scores being a bit down.
47.4 takes them into 3rd place. Only one pair has gone over the 100. That's Ross and Jack Haslam. So 2 rounds done, 4 rounds to come. This is where I'll press a little button and go, let's start things off properly. It's like the button for the lottery here.
Yeah. enter
let
the
the balls
optional
out.
round.
Here we go.
Let's see. We'll definitely see some mistakes, but hopefully we'll see some really nice dives as well. It's a bit more interesting.
Yeah, that's where the competition really gets going. And we go from 2s up to, well, initially 3s with the more advanced divers. 2.8 is actually the benchmark in 3 dives for Ben and Tyler. Back 2.5 is what they're going to go with here. Free position. They're doing 3 of them in the free position, aren't they? I think no, two. No, just one in the free position. This one will
That'll be their back twister at the end. They close on. Yeah. So they're doing the back 2.5 in the tuck position. Eventually they'll be putting this in the pike position, I assume, when they're a little bit more mature and a little bit stronger. Both leaving that a little bit short with their heads down. I think probably a little bit scared to reach back. Sometimes in competition it's easy to hold back rather than to just go for it and trust your gut. And I think they both made the same mistake there.
58.8, and a smile. No, it's a work in progress. Still learning their craft, learning their trade. Certainly 14 years of age, both of them. Now to Freddie and James. The low combination. And that's where it gets serious for them. 3.1, then 2 3.4s to round things off. This is the inward 2.5 somersaults they'll go with.
Choosing the easier of the 2 inward options they could have had. And executing it very well. Could be a little bit tighter on the finishes, but the timing was impeccable. Very nice. A little bit splashy. 70 points.
Yeah, a couple of 8s on the right, a couple of 8s and 8.5 on the synchro, and 8.5 and 8 on the execution. Of course, those marks not all counted towards the 70.20. It's actually a very complicated equation, which I'm not going to go through now. It's how we get that final mark.
We might be here a lot later than we expected.
So here are our leaders. The duo have gone over 100 so far. Inward 2.5, just saw it from Freddie and James. You'll see the same dive from Ross and Jack.
Jack leaving that a little bit short. He'll probably be a little bit angry with that because his top was great. He just came out and buried it a little bit short. But overall, not a bad attempt.
They lost some marks because of that. No, 8 to the bottom and 7.5 to the top, so 70.20 gives them a little lead over Woodward and Heatley, but not massive.
They like the synchro with that one, with the brothers, I think.
Only well, 2 points or so separate 1 and 2 right now. Agnefellow and Tony Hardy might have other plans where this event is going. Back 2.5 for them. Then things really get serious. 3.1, 3.4, 3.8. Only duo doing the forward 4.5.
Now Tony coming out very early of that, but doing a very, very good job to actually kind of pull his back around and get his hands on the finish. And Dan left it a little bit short and splashy.
64.8 puts them still in 3rd place. 11 points between them and the leaders.
This is where I think it's difficult for them because they know they're behind now, but they need to remember they've got their high tariff dives coming up, so they can gain a lot of points by that.
Gotta say that Ben and Tyler haven't been cut adrift either yet. Only 8 points behind.
No, doing very well to keep up with the pace, which I'm sure they'll be really pleased with, along with their coaches.
Round 4. So we up the ante. Well, we will do when we get to the main 3 pairings. The youngsters just going through in nice symmetrical order here. 2.8, 2.7, 2.8 at the end. Inward 2.5 for Ben and Tyler.
Nice dive. Ben slightly losing his back on the end, as you'll see just there, and twisting a little bit. I don't think the judges will notice the twist. One has, probably Lindsay.
Yes.
Actually, I think Lindsay's Synchro.
Oh, she is, yeah. She's in the middle there, but yeah, somebody did. That's why there's a 5.5 there, but it won't count towards the score, so don't worry about that too much.
But Lindsay, as a judge, she judges all around the world
Doesn't
at
miss
world
much, does she?
competitions, and she doesn't miss much. You're right.
Okay, Woodward and Heatley. Sheffield and Edinburgh combined for this 3.1.
Nice there, good entries. James a little bit long. Freddie's was very nice. Nice takeoff. Pretty good timing. James is slightly further in front as well.
Well, execution marks are good. Synchro, not bad at all. 72.54. That's pushed them right up there. 240.54. So Ross and Jack will need to respond, and theirs is slightly less in terms of tariff.
Exactly what James and Freddie need to do is just keep that steady pace, and that will be the benchmark for the competition.
Reverse 2.5 somersaults for the Haslam boys. Leaders after round 3.
Oh, Ross, lovely entry there. He was a little bit over the end. I was actually more worried about Ross than Jack. And then Jack ended up pulling himself over, which is a shame. You see him getting 5.5s there.
Well, they lost a bit on entry. A lot of splash on entry, and that's put them behind Woodward and Heatley now for the first time. 63. Yeah, the execution marks, not great. So, talking about the door being left ajar. Certainly has been now for Dan and Tony.
Yeah.
Goodfellow and Harding with the same dive we saw from Woodward and Heatley earlier.
Hopefully they can make this dive go in line, because in training Dan tends to be a bit closer to the board than Tony. We'll see, and he is a little bit closer there, but very good entry. So we'll see if the judges on the synchro markings pick up on that distance error.
Not too much, if at all. 71.61. We have a competition here. 240 plays 233, plays 231. 9 points in it with 2 rounds to go.
Exciting.
Between 1 and 3. It's changed again. So our leaders are no longer our leaders. Woodward and Heatley moved into first place. 2 Haslam boys in second, and Goodfellow and Harding. But remember, Dan and Tony have that 3.8 at the end. So if they are tight, if it's close, that's their banker.
That's right, and they've got the inward 3.5 as well, which is 3.4, which will be up there matching with the Haslam's double out, which is also 3.4.
Verse 2.5 for Ben and Tyler.
Oh, lovely entries there. Fair play. That was nice. I think one of them may have been a little bit tight. No, they weren't tight. It was just my angle. Nice dive.
Well, see if the marks reflect that. Well, they do on synchro. A bit of a meanie there with a 6.5, I think, but that won't count.
Yeah, I don't know whether maybe there was a twist or something in there I didn't see, but I definitely felt like that was a 7.5, not a 6.5. But there you go.
Right, the event is really reaching its zenith now. 3.4 inward 3.5. Exact same dive we'll see from Dan and Tony in this round. Who can do it better? Because obviously there was it's very tight between the 2 pairings.
I saw on the takeoff James Heatley put his head down on his chest, and that meant that when he came out, he thought the water was there, but he was over-rotated. Freddie nailing his dive, but only getting 7s. I feel like he may have been a little bit hard done by there.
Yeah, it's knocked him back a bit. Still smiles on Freddie's face.
Yeah, I think he's just happy to come out unscathed, to be honest.
One more dive for them to come. Now, it looks like it could well be a head-to-head between 3 and 4 now, between the Haslam boys and Goodfellow and Harding. 3.4s each in this round.
Part here.
Yep.
Crucial part of the competition. They need to get this on their heads.
Forward 2.5 with 2 twists. Lots involved in this. Oh,
got very stompy on the hurdles, which left Ross almost missing his hands on the entry and making a bit of a splash. Jack got his down nicely.
72.42, only 305, so over to you, Dan and Tony, really.
Yeah, let's see what they can do. Let's see if they can handle the pressure, because the door's been left ajar there a little bit. Still 72 points, not too much of a drop considering, but they can definitely do something here.
So these two need 76 to go into the lead as we get towards the final round. 76 will put them there. 3.4 in with 3.5.
Oh, nice there by Tony. Very good. He's a young competitor. I train alongside him. It's good to see him landing on his head. Dan burying his head a little bit and going over. Overall, not what they would have wanted.
66.3, but it does lead to a very exciting climax to this competition, because still there's only 10 points between 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah, and don't forget that Tony and Dan have their 4.5, so they've got a good 0.4 on tariff on the rest of the athletes.
So it's a case of Ken Woodward and Heatley who have taken over the top of the table. We've had kind of a tug of war in terms of who's leading, but Woodward and Heatley are in front. To give you an idea, 3.4 finish for Woodward and Heatley, 3.5 finish for the Haslam boys, and a 3.8 for Goodfellow and Harding. We won't forget about these two though. Ben Cutmore, Tyler Humphries, they're going to conclude with a free dive in terms of what they can do during the course of it, but the thing they have to do is a back 1.5 somersaults with 2.5 twists.
Nice finish for the boys. They've competed really well. A little bit over, not perfect, and I'm sure their coaches will have something to say about it, but generally going over 300 in that environment is no mean feat, so well done to them.
Yeah, 328.83 is where they finish. Now the competition really cranked up to warp factor, well, however many numbers you want, really. Numbers that are important to these two is what the judges see from their forward 2.5 with 2 twists. 3.4 degree of difficulty, so the lowest tariff in the last round of the top 3.
Very nice hurdles there. A little bit out in the synchro in terms of the flip. That can happen sometimes on double out, but overall that was a very nice dive, getting 79 points, almost 80 points on that.
Yeah, nearly 80, so that really has set quite a target. 387.
Yeah, 387, which isn't a bad score, but they would have wanted to go over 400 for sure on that list.
Now the Haslams have to get 82 on this.
This is quite doable for them. They're both very good at this dive. Whether they both manage to pull it off at the same time is another thing.
Reverse 1.5 somersaults, 3, yes, 3.5 twists, 3.5. Well, this could be the winning dive, or it might put them back in third.
Oh, it's going to be close. I don't think they're going to quite get it. I don't think that's going to go over 80 points. Just a bit out there in the synchro, but both got it nicely on their heads. 75 points there with 381. Not quite.
Yeah, 75.6, so not today for Ross and Jack in terms of winning it, but here comes that big dive, the one that we used to go ooh-ah when we saw it in international competition, but now it's become kind of a bit like fast food. It's on every corner. We're kind of used to it, aren't we?
Yeah, it's very normal now, the front 4.5. And it's easy to do well sometimes when you're feeling strong. But these boys have, actually Dan hasn't, but Tony's already competed in the 1 metre. And hopefully he's not too tired to be able to perform it to his best.
This is such a complicated dive, especially on the 3-meter boards, bad enough on the 10, but you can see it on the 3. You think, well, how do they cram it all in? You do it. Jack does it.
Yeah.
Now can Dan and Tony do it? Big marks if they get this right. Big marks and they win it.
Oh, what a shame. Tony had a great start and he just buried it slightly, putting his head down. If he'd have had his head up, that could have gone big. That could have gone 96. Dan's was brilliant.
What a shame. Look at the execution marks there. 5, 5 and 5.5. 76.38. So they'll have to settle for 3rd place. So it's been a great day for Freddie, hasn't it? Been on that podium a couple of times now.
Very good. I mean, in that event, he was very steady along with James. And today, that was enough for the win. But Tony, that was his I just remembered that was his first time actually using the front 4.5. So more experience will come. And then maybe with their tariff being higher, one day they can put some pressure on.
Give you the full tabulated, completed scores on the board in just a moment. Should be coming up on your screen. It's coming up on ours right now. So Woodward and Heatley, well, kind of, I would say a makeshift pair in terms of they don't train at the same clubs. They train a couple of 100 miles apart. One in Edinburgh, one in Sheffield, but it's worked wonders today. It used to work very well for a certain Waterfield and Taylor.
Yeah, that's right. 387. They will have wanted to go over 400. Probably all 3 of Woodward and Heatley, both the Haslams and Dan and Tony would have been aiming for around the 400 mark. So a little bit lower, but still held their own.
And mentioned for the future, 2 lads who will certainly improve and impress today. 328 for Ben Cutmore and Tyler Humphries. And of course, we should remember they are 14 years each. And there's a lot of years ahead of them in the game.
Yeah, once again, great experience for them, competing alongside the older boys. And when they get a bit more tariff in their list, who knows what they'll be able to do.
Only a matter of time. Right, so I think we can now officially declare the fact that you're not going to be competing this weekend. Is that right? Or can we say that officially or not?
I'm not sure yet. I still need to check in with the physios and see what the deal is. But I do have a little bit of a back injury. It's not too much of a problem considering my up-and-coming, competitions like World Series and Commonwealth Games being the highlight, hopefully, of this year. It's a bit of a precautionary thing, just because I do have underlying back issues. We'll see. We'll see what the verdict is.
He's on the bionic man. We can rebuild him. He'll be ready for the Gold Coast, and ready for Europeans, and ready for World Series, etc., etc. And just to flag up tomorrow for the events, alongside me in the commentary position will be his partner in crime from the 3-meter synchro from Rio, and of course through the last few years, Jack Law, also not competing here, so Jack will be adding his expert touch. So I'm going to say you're handing the baton on tomorrow to your synchro partner. Jack's doing it tomorrow.
He's doing what?
Sitting there.
Oh, he's commentating.
Yeah,
is he?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't tell you about that.
Watch the medal ceremonies. This one's kind of a bizarre one because we knew who was going to get the gold anyway, but Andrea Spendolini, Syriacs of Crystal Palace, and Josie Zillig, 13 and 14 respectively. take it. It's got a marker now of what they can achieve in the women's platform synchro. And a lot going on at Crystal Palace, maybe some good things from Palace about their future plans, which I think are under wraps at the moment, but we'll get to hear more about it in due course.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2018 Women's Platform Synchronized Champions.
So on the girls for the 10 metre, what a competitive men's 3 metre synchro we have just witnessed. But it might be tight between Woodward, Headley, 2 Haslam boys, and Goodfellow and Harding. So it's proved to be. Yeah, Fraser had a really good day. In terms of British competitors in the 1 metre. Top in that. And top in the competition with James Headley of Edinburgh in the men's 3 metre synchro. Just a reminder while we're waiting for this, we will be back tomorrow on YouTube in the morning and on BBC Sport website and on the Olympic Channel tomorrow afternoon for the finals. Hope you join us for that. I'm sure you spread the word. And obviously on the YouTube channel you can watch the action back from today. We'll be there in perpetuity. So if you missed the 2 1 metre finals or the conclusion of the 3 metre synchro, we'll all be there for replay later on. So last medal ceremony of the day is the men's 3-meter synchro. There are our top three, and highly competitive event it was as well. In doubt really until that last dive. Dan Goodfellow, Tony Hardy get nailed to their forward 4.5. It would have been different, but as it was, they finished third. Dan used to third place in more exalted circumstances in the Olympic Games in Rio. Tom Daly, Tony Harding, still very much learning his craft at 17 years of age. Dan's been around a bit longer, 21 now. Well, they led early stages, thought they might possibly take it all the way through, but Ross Jack Haslam couldn't quite hold on, so it's second place for them today. Freddie's dad, who's here, made the journey down from Sheffield this morning, will be thoroughly delighted that his boy is on the #1 podium again. Second time today. This time joined by his synchro partner from Edinburgh, James Healy. Woodward and Healy are the men's 3-meter synchro champions at the British Diving Championships of 2018. Another medal to add, and Freddie will be joining me on Sunday to go through the events on the final day of the British Diving Championships. So we'll be able to talk to him about his 2 gold medals from today. Photos to be taken, medals to be observed, and that's us done for day 1 of the British Diving Championships 2018, Plymouth Life Centre. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. As our schedule for day 2 will be on air at 10 to 10, men's 3-meter preliminaries, followed by the women's platform preliminaries. And in the afternoon, we'll go for the final of both of those events, and then we'll round it off at 5:05 with the men's 10-meter synchro and the women's 3-meter synchro. So 6 events, 4 finals to be competed from 10 to 10 tomorrow, and I'll be joined all the way through the day by our Olympic gold medalist, the other Olympic gold medalist alongside me over the first 2 days. Jack Law will be here to take us through those, including his eye on the men's 3-meter prelim, which of course he is the Olympic silver medalist. Myself, Bob Ballard, and the team here in Plymouth, hope you've had a really good day, enjoyed it with us, and you want to join us again for more tomorrow at 10 to 10. Until then, it's a very good night.